Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Purpose Partner Path podcast. As you know, I am your host, Wendy Gladney, also known as the Purpose Partner, where we help women and young ladies at Crossroads rediscover who they are to become unshakable in all that they want to do in life so that they can also live with strategic grace. Today's episode is especially meaningful to me because April is when we also actually deal with and talk about financial literacy. It's Financial Literacy Month, and we are talking about something that impacts every single one of us. Money. All of us want to deal with money, but not just money. We're talking about confidence and in how we handle our money. We're going to talk about decision making. We're going to talk about building a future. So, before we keep going, you know what we do each week. So go grab your cup of tea so we can get started.
Exhale, let go, and enjoy the purpose. Partner, partner, podcast. Wendy Gladney.
I want to take a moment to sincerely thank Vanessa Ramos and Freddie Salguero for their continued commitment and support of Forgiving for Living Incorporated. Your partnership has helped us pour into so many young women and young ladies, teaching them how to not just survive, but to thrive through mentorship, life skills, and opportunities that truly make a difference. And one of those critical life skills is understanding how to work with your money and your finances. So today, I am honored to welcome our wonderful guest, Vanessa Ramos. Now, Vanessa is a multi-award winning sales manager with over 18 years of experience in banking and financial services, leading top performing teams across consumer and business banking. She brings expertise in leadership, business development, relationship building, and marketing with a strong focus on social media, branding, and event planning, which I know a little bit about that. She is bilingual in English and Spanish, and shaped by a multicultural upbringing, Vanessa connects authenticity and authentically with diverse communities. She serves as a board member for the National College Resources Foundation, and I love me some Teresa Price, so I know exactly who she works with. And Vanessa currently holds the title of USOA Miss Beverly Hills 2026, using her platform to inspire and give back. Vanessa, welcome to the show. Could you please pause right now and just share with all of our viewers just a little bit about your journey and just who you are?
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. First of all, it's such an honor and pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for everything you do to uplift our community. A little bit about myself. I was raised in Puerto Rico. I've been in LA now since 2012. I started my career in banking as a part-time teller, just paying my way through school. To be quite frank, I didn't think I would still be in banking, but I fell in love with my journey and really being a resource for my clients. I think that's one of the things I love most about my job and what I do. And I've had the opportunity to work both in the retail side of banking and in business banking. In addition to the banking side, as you mentioned, I sit as an active board member for the National College Resource Foundation. We are the ones that put on the Latino College Expo and the Black College Expo all around the U.S. There's so many resources available, I have to say that. So please go and look us up. And we're helping to empower our young generation to have access to education. And lastly, I am very proud to hold the title of USOA Miss Beverly Hills 2026, tying back the community. It's such an important part of and piece of what I do. Again, thank you, Wendy, for having me.
Wonderful. I mean, just listening to you and of course seeing you, I can understand how you would win a beauty contest because you're beautiful inside and out. So
Thank you. Right back at you, Wendy. Thank you so
thank
much.
you. Thank you so much. So now, Vanessa, many of our listeners are senior high schoolers and college students, and some of them are young ladies who are just getting out of college, starting their journey. So let me ask you, What does financial literacy really mean in just simple terms?
Honestly, it's just about understanding money. How does money work? How do you build your financial reputation? And how do you use money to your advantage? How do you grow it? And how do you make it work for you?
That's very simple, and that's really the key. How do we make it work for us? So, my next question would be is why is it so important for young people and because we work with young ladies, I'll say especially young women to understand the importance about money at an early age.
That's a great point. We need to make sure, as young women, first starting off, that we plant those seeds that are going to create the future that we are hoping for, right? And so if we implement these strategies and these habits early on, regardless of from where you may start, you can absolutely build the future that you want if you're doing it from an early age and you're being consistent.
Wow, I think that's a perfect word that you've used, being consistent. I think a lot of times people they're not consistent with what they do with their money, or they don't realize just doing a little bit at a time but staying consistent can make a big difference. So let me ask you, what is a common money mistake that you've seen people make, especially young people?
Spending too much. I think also maybe trying to keep up with appearances or a certain lifestyle, not saving, putting money aside, and absolutely just call it kind of freestyling, not budgeting, not creating a plan for yourself, just spending without purpose.
Wow. Yes, that's a key theme because a lot of times young people forget that they're going to get older. I'm older now. I'm going to actually be 65 this year, and I'm an official senior citizen, and retirement,
Congratulations.
which is still a little ways away for me, but if I had not started at a young age, really, respecting, I'll call it respecting money,
I like it.
um, it would be even a lot harder for me right now. So let me ask you, on this show, we also talk about people and especially women being at crossroads, which is all about, being at a place where they've got to make a decision. And so I'll ask you, how do financial decisions early in life shape the direction of somebody's future?
That's such a great question. I will answer it using an example of myself. I remember when I was, barely an adult and going onto the real world, as we say. And I was working actually, one of my very first job, I was working as a waitress at a restaurant. And during that time, I would get a lot of paid in cash tips, right? So I always had a lot of cash on me. And because I had that cash, it was so easy in my mind. Oh, I'm just gonna spend. So, and I've always been a fashionista. So, spending on, the latest trends, the newest shirts or outfits or purses that were coming out, right? And because I did not have a budget set for myself at that point. Money was just like easy come, easy go. And again, it was so accessible because I always had it on me because I was always paid in tips. Um, Thankfully, it came to a point. I started working as a teller, and I did learn a little bit about money early on, and that made me. I remember one of the first things that it made me realize was, wow, I'm spending a lot of money, and a lot of money that I really don't have. Right at the moment, it feels great, but then when you realize a few days later, like I don't have any left. So I was lucky that I had that financial literacy exposure working for a bank early on.
Yeah.
But had that not happened, I think in the long run, I would have maybe been in a little bit of trouble. So absolutely make sure that you are spending correctly. And again, budgeting. At the end of the day, it's whether it's cash, debit, or credit, it all comes out of pocket. So
Yeah,
be
that's so
careful.
true. That is so true. So, let's talk a little bit about building financial confidence, because one of the things I like to make sure that young women learn is confidence, to be confident, not cocky, but confident about what they're doing. So, how can a young person, or anyone for that matter, begin building a healthy relationship with money so that they can be confident? I think you kind of already touched on that, but what are maybe a couple of other steps that they can do so that as they're moving forward, they can have confidence in how they're handling their money?
Great question, Wendy. Confidence, I think, comes from a place of knowledge, right? Knowledge is power. And so, even if we start small and we start exposing ourselves to learning different products, putting ourselves in situations where we can be exposed to, for example, talking with your banker about different products like, hey, I want to start saving. What options are available to me? Or, hey, I need to build my credit. Credit is something that's so important that we build responsibly from an early age.
Yeah.
Making sure you're putting yourself in those conversations and raising your hand. I think a
Mm,
confident young woman is one who knows to speak and to use her voice and say it's. I think it's so admirable when you can say, hey, I'm not quite sure how that works, but I would love to learn. Can you explain that to me? I love that. I love when my clients come to me and have those conversations with me. It makes me so proud and so happy to share. So going back, I think build your credit, learn about credit, start working on your credit reputation. That's important. Make list and a budget. Sometimes it sounds scary, but it's just so simple as just writing down a list of expenses you have, right? And then going from those expenses. Are they a non-negotiable? Are they things you have to pay, unfortunately, like rent, right? Or is it more of, oh, this is more of a want. I want to do my nails. I want to have that Starbucks coffee. So it's something, it's simple and little baby steps. We all have to start somewhere. And once you start, you'll make some mistakes. That's okay. You're human. You're allowed to make mistakes, but you'll grow and it'll get easier as time goes by.
yeah. Speaking of mistakes, what if somebody has made a mistake and they've messed up their bank account? Like whether it's, I will say a checking account. How do they fix that with their banker? How do they fix basically messing up?
And that's a great question. I always recommend to find a banker that you feel comfortable with, right? It's not
Yeah.
one size fits all.
Yeah.
Find someone that you like working with and then go in and have an honest, sincere conversation. I think honesty is the best policy. And again, you're human, you're allowed to make a mistake. Say, hey, I realize that I messed up. I want to make this right and I want to grow and I want to grow my money and my credit. Ask for advice. What can I do at this point? Am I able to, for example, let's say you owe some money. Can I pay this off? Can I get record that it's paid? Can I clear my name up? What steps do I need to do? But just have that conversation, and I think there will be a lot of respect for you. If someone came to me and had that conversation, it's only respect that I would have for that person, and say, "Wow, good for you for trying to improve." Because at the end of the day, everyone's made a mistake, and we're human, so it's okay.
I like that because it's all about relationships. And when you have a good
100%.
relationship with your banker, they can really help you when you have a problem. So let me ask you this. We always talk about credit. So when should a young person start to look into getting a credit card, and how do they do that? And is that important?
100% that's important. I'm so happy that you're asking me this. I think sometimes people have two reactions to credit, especially young people. Either they've heard or they're like, no, 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 no credit. No, not at all. I don't want a credit card. Or it's like, yes, give me, give me, give me shopping. Yay, fun, right? The truth is, credit is important because credit is your financial reputation, right? That's what lenders are going to use to determine what you can qualify for. And it's more than what you may qualify for in a loan. It's where you might be able to live, what jobs you may be able to get, right? Credit is so important. So building that financial reputation from an early age is important. One of the factors of credit is length of time that you've had credit. So the earlier that you start, you're positioning yourself to be in a much stronger position down the line, right? The day that it comes that you are ready to purchase a home or are starting a business and now you need a business loan, or you want to buy a new car, need a new car. So these are all things, but this is why it's so important. Now, I have to say responsibly. I think sometimes people get confused when you're approved for a certain limit. One thing is what you're approved for, and one thing is what you could really afford.
So
So
true.
being responsible on, hey, I have this available, which is great in case of an emergency because life happens.
Right.
However, what do I have right now in my bank account? What can I afford? Because at the end of the day, I need to pay this back. And if I don't pay it back, that's when interest is assessed. And now that's when sometimes people are like, wait a minute, a few months later, I have to pay all this. I can't afford this. So
Right.
responsibly is the keyword.
Right. So I have a question. How, how are credit scores even determined? Are they a combination of the credit cards as well as the bank accounts? Like, because we always hear about things like Experian and things like that. But how important is this for a young person again, or a young woman who's just out of college, just to understand that process?
That's such a good question. Wendy, you're asking the most amazing questions. I love this. And I get excited with this topic. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So credit is, it's a combination of actually a lot of factors. I will mention a few. One is the credit utilization. So the percent that you have available versus the percent that you've used. So
Okay.
experts say that under 30% utilization is the number that you're aiming for, right? So that's a really important factor. Another one, like I mentioned, it's time, length of time that you've had credit established. That's why it's so important to start young.
Okay.
Another factor on your credit score is number of on-time payments. So
Mm. Okay.
um, making sure you're making those payments on time. Late payments could really, really hurt. Actually, credit inquiries also are a factor. Some people say, but I need to apply for credit. You're going to run my credit, so that's going to hurt my credit. And it does sound a little confusing, but that's when, again, right, it's about being responsible. So if I need a loan or I need to establish credit or I need a credit card, do it, get it. But responsibly, we shouldn't be going and applying for credit cards at every store that we're offered a card. So again, that responsibility goes in. Um, Now, you mentioned the account, an account with the bank. So, does that directly impact your credit score? For example, I'm just going to use checking account because that's the basic account, a checking account. Does it directly impact your credit score? Um, doesn't impact your credit score, just the checking account. But banks have a different system that we use kind of to communicate with each other. It's called check systems.
Okay.
And if you were to have what we call a charged off with a bank, this internal system that's used, check systems, it's a way that banks would tell other banks, hey, this person owes us money with this account for X reason. And that might hurt you from being able to then open an account at another banking institution, another
Oh,
financial institution.
okay.
So although it doesn't impact their credit score directly, it may or may not, it's still something that's really important that you make sure that you don't do.
Wow, that's good to know. I feel fortunate. I've never really had any issues with my banking and stuff like that. But I do know people who do. And then oftentimes they have to go to other alternative places for, that people go to handle money. So it's so good to learn these things so young. So let me ask you, do you have any tools, apps, or books that you would recommend our listeners to start reading or learning about?
The
And I'm going to
first
write them
app
down.
yes, please do. Credit Karma is such a great tool. I check my Credit Karma at least twice a week. It's a free app. It helps you not only track your credit score, it gives you alerts if there's an inquiry. So if there's any potential fraud, that's a great tool to use to prevent that. And it also gives you ways to calculate, like, if a scenario. So if I was to do this, what can my credit score potentially be? So it's fun to play around with, and a great tool to help you build your credit and to help you get to a higher credit score. So Credit Karma is great. Mint is very popular as well, another app that's available.
Is that MINT?
Mint, yes.
Okay, and Karma, is that Karma?
Karma, yes.
Okay,
Karma.
because we're going to put
And
these up on the screen when we finalize
perfect.
everything. Okay.
Okay, perfect. And also a book, The Psychology of Money. Such a great book. Definitely worth the read.
Okay. These are some great resources, and we're going to make sure that we list them that as recommendations, based on our conversation today. So let me ask this. You kind of touched a little bit on it already, but if we have a young person that is dealing with money and they need to learn patience, because I think you talked about that, like how it takes time to build your credit and so forth. But how do we help people, because it doesn't have to be just a young person, to not be fearful of money? Because sometimes people seem to be afraid of money, as if it's going to get away from them or something. So, do you have any recommendations or any suggestions regarding that?
Absolutely. And Wendy, I can understand that fear. I grew up in a household where money was always a topic of anxiety, lack of money, right? So it was always a thing of, it was something fearful. So I can understand that anxiety that surrounds it. And when you grow up in that, environment. Now, when it's your turn to kind of manage it, right? It's kind of like, oh my goodness, I can't mess up. I don't have enough of it to afford to mess up, right? So I would say one of the things that might help with that, to have a better relationship with money, is to start saving. And listen, sometimes we're not in situations where we can save a whole lot of money, and that's okay. um, if you just start consistently saving, even if it's, I tell people, you can start saving $5 a week, right? So rather than buying that cup of Starbucks once a week, put that money aside. And that's a small win. And you know what? Celebrate that small win. And everything in life, celebrate your wins. Make yourself goals, and your goals can be small. You could say something like, in a month, I want to save X amount of money. Doesn't have to be big again. But when you get to that goal in that month, maybe you do a small celebration. Then I'm gonna treat myself to that cup of Starbucks coffee or that Frappuccino because I got to my goal. And then you start over again, right? Again, it's consistency, and it's creating those habits. Because what? If you're starting with those habits from today, once you are 5 years, 10 years down the line, and now you're going for those big goals, like, now I want to buy this car, now I want to move into this really nice place, you already have those behaviors in place, and it'll be much easier.
I love that because the behaviors become your habits. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, this has just been so powerful. But before we close today, is there a piece of financial advice or just world advice that you would like to give to anyone who's listening, or that you wish somebody would have given to you when you were younger? So do you have something you'd like to share with us before we begin to close up?
Absolutely. You know, I think um, we think sometimes of life as a race, right? And in a traditional race, everyone has the same start point. The first is the same line that you start from. But in life, we don't all have the same start point. We all start from somewhere different. So be gentle with yourself and be kind to yourself. Don't compare yourself to your peers or to others. You don't know what their journey's been like. Focus on your own journey. Be kind to yourself. Celebrate your small wins. Your small wins might be huge wins for others. And just believe in yourself. There's really nothing out there that's impossible if you're willing to put in the work.
So true, so true. And you're one of the role models and examples we can look at, because your career is multifaceted, and I know that that's possibly probably because of just, you believing in yourself, having the confidence, taking one day at a time, building positive habits, and so that's excellent advice. So Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom, your experience, and your heart. And I'd also like to thank again Freddie Salguero and Comerica Bank for your continued support of Forgiving for Living. And because of you, we're able to continue to help young women and lift them up. And to our listeners, if you are at a crossroad in your life, know that every decision that you make matters, especially financial ones. And when you begin to understand your money, you begin to understand your power. You become confident, more prepared, and ultimately unshakable. So, Vanessa, do you have a closing comment?
Thank you so much, Wendy. This has been such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I send all my love to all your listeners.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, until next time, I am Coach Wendy, founder of Forgiving for Living Incorporated and your purpose partner, encouraging you to stay rooted, stand unshakable, and lead with strategic grace. Also, if you get a chance, go over to my website at wendygladney.com, where you can find out more information about my handbook. And if you want to learn more about Forgiving for Living, please go to forgivingforliving.org. So until next time, we thank you so much. Have a great, great day. Thank you.
Exhale, let go, and enjoy the purpose, partner, partner. Oh, yeah.